I'm with Professor Peter Barrett, who's been brought here by Gratnells, and he's been doing a series of workshops and sessions and also doing a keynote tomorrow. Do you want to tell me a bit about your talk today?
Yeah, I've done a talk today about the practicalities of classroom spaces and how, to a great extent, they're sort of overlooked, they're a bit ignored. And this is really dangerous because they can make a huge impact on learning rates of pupils, and so if you ignore them, they might be good, they might be bad, but they could be a real drag factor. And if the teachers can actively use the spaces to be conducive to learning, then it makes their job a lot easier.
I think one of the big themes we've had here is about the learning environment, and as you were saying, how it's conducive to education. Are there any particular tips that you think teachers could take away from some of the sessions?
From the conference as a whole, I mean, there's so much information. I feel sorry for teachers sometimes. There's just so much to try and take into account. I'm looking at really basic things, so I'm looking at things like healthy environments with light and good air quality and so on, but also spaces that are individualized in the sense that the children can feel a connection with them, and also spaces that aren't overstimulating or understimulating. So it's a lot of balancing acts for them to do, and in the conference there's a whole load of resources they can pull in to try and achieve that.
And I think one of the things we were just talking about, that people worry about the investment in refurbishing classrooms, but actually there's things people can do quite easily to improve the learning environment.
Yeah, that's a really important point, that the sorts of things we discovered were influencing learning very often could be quite easily changed for the positive. So for instance, let's take the visual complexity of a space. It can very easily be chaotic and confusing, but that can be changed very rapidly by just attention to the displays that are on the walls. And if you look at the issue of ownership sticking with the displays, you need the children's work there as well as the teacher's work. And so these are things that can be done the next day. Some things are more difficult. You might need to repaint the classroom a particular colour, but that's not actually so hard to do. So we're not talking about building new schools to be able to achieve these things. You can take the existing classrooms and you can really improve them very rapidly.
And what can people expect from your keynote later this afternoon?
So far I was talking about the practical sorts of things you could do. In my keynote I'm going to give you the evidence, the academic evidence that's been published in the academic journals, but in a digestible way, because I think it's important that people are surrounded by a whole load of suggestions about what they should do, whereas this stuff is really evidence-based. It's actually the result of 12-person years' work to actually do the study, because it's a very complicated issue. And I feel I've got to give the background evidence and the broad ideas, and then the practical things seem to make more sense.
And what would you hope would be the key learning outcome, or one bright idea that a teacher could take away from one of your sessions that you've done?
That's a difficult thing. I suppose my whole mantra is that a lot of things are all quite important, and so the key learning thing is to actually see the classroom in an active sense, and not to just get on and teach in a space, but actually think, how can I use the space, how can I improve the space to support the teaching?
Thank you very much.